Going. Okay, this weekend we have UFC Fight Night Vera versus Sandhagen going down at the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas. I love it when a fight night feels like a pay-per-view, and it probably will at the AT&T Center. So here we go. Before we jump into, I believe we're going to preview and pick 6 of the fights. So 1 prelim fight and all 5 of the main card fights. Before we get into this fight talk, gentlemen, any other fights or fighters that you guys want to spotlight for our listeners?
You still can't get straight what's on the main card of the prelims.
God damn it.
We're just doing the main card.
Oh, we are?
6 fights on the main card.
I've been led astray. Do you want to spotlight any other fighters?
Sure. Sorry, I had to call you out. It's too funny because we discussed it before the show. So, yeah, I will spotlight the return of Daniel Pineda. Weird, got to judge exactly how good he is, considering that he has popped in 3 of his last 5 fights, but he has looked really good in his performances, so I'm curious enough to see him back. He's going to be fighting Tucker Lutz. So that's an interesting one. And then I could see Steven Peterson and Lucas Alexander being a scrap in a fight that you wouldn't want to miss.
Anything else?
No, Daniel Pineda was mine. He popped? He popped for what?
For
amphetamines. Oh
yes, amphetamines. Yes, that's it. Yeah, and he popped right before he came to the UFC when he was in PFL. So the man is doing a lot of popping.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Shall we get into the first fight?
Let's do it.
Okay. Just tell me which is the first one.
Just right up the main card. We're only doing the main card. 6-fight main card.
So Chidi is the first one.
Chidi is the first one. Okay. Okay, middleweights. Chidi and Njokuani taking on Albert Duraev. Njokuani, Chidi, bang, bang. The 34-year-old out of Las Vegas, Nevada. 22-8 as a pro. 14 wins by knockout. Coming off of a loss against Gregory Rodriguez Hobocop. Knocked him out last September. Looking to get back in the win column. Taking on Albert Duraev, the Machete, the 34-year-old out of Russia. He's 15-4 as a pro, 3 knockouts, 9 submissions on his record. Also looking to get back in the win column with a win this Saturday night. Mark, why don't you start us off? Give us your prediction and your pick.
All right, so Chidi's the favorite here. He is minus 170. Duraev is plus 135. I hope that Chidi and Njokuani can create a bit of an instant replay of Joaquin Buckley's performance against Duraev. And Buckley was the same size as Duraev and still managed that. Chidi's going to have a 4-inch height and a 5-inch reach advantage, which should be a big factor. And he's a big dude in general, so I think he can resist the takedowns for the most part. And then from there, I think Duraev's a pretty hittable guy from what we've seen thus far. And when you carry the power that Chidi does and can work from range in this particular matchup the way that he can, I think that's a recipe for a finish. So I know Chidi lost his last fight, but let's not forget how good he had been looking prior to that. And even in that fight, he was winning that fight early on. So I think he can restart that here. As long as he can stuff some takedowns, and I think he can, I think this goes his way. I will say Chidi gets a round 2 knockout.
Okay, Omar.
I'd have to agree. I think the wrestling is something that you'd have to think about for Duraev, but I just think Njokuani is a little bit too skilled for it. His takedown defense is pretty damn solid. And like Mark said, Duraev is definitely hittable. So I think it does end up going Chidi's way. I just think it's a little earlier. I think Njokuani round 1 KO.
We are unanimous on this one. I'm a fan of Chidi and Njokuani's stand-up skills. Before his loss to Hobocop, he was on quite a tear, finishing his previous 4 opponents, if not more. I only can see his last 4. But his previous 2 opponents, he finished in the first round, and I also think that he's going to get another very impressive round 1 KO. All 3 of us for Chidi, Bang Bang, and Njokuani. by knockout.
Nice.
Okay, moving on. Which is the next fight? Mark, tell me.
Why don't you just open UFC.com? I don't understand. It's Perez and
Okay,
Kape.
Alex Perez. Here we go. Flyweight. Sorry, I have it up there now. Alex Perez taking on Manel Kape. Perez, the 30-year-old out of California. Record stands at 24-7. 5 knockouts, 7 subs, 12 decisions. He is very much looking to get back in the win column after dropping back-to-back fights to Davison Figueiredo and Alexandre Pantoja. Most recently, Pantoja back in July. He is 6-3 in the UFC after winning on Contender Series. He will be standing across from Manel Starboy Kape, the 29-year-old out of Angola. His record stands at 18-6 with 11 knockouts. Add 5 subs to that. Only 2 wins have come by decision. Never been knocked out. Has been subbed twice. And he is riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this Saturday night. Most recently defeating David Dvorak in December by decision. After dropping his first 2 UFC fights by decision, he has now won his last 3. Omar, go first.
So I know Manel Kape is a big prospect. I do think he's very good. I think he's very explosive. But I think this is going to be one of those types of fights where there will be a need to be a bit more meticulous, a bit more technical, and even probably more measured than he has been in his previous fights. I don't think the crazy explosive shit that he does is going to catch Alex Perez off guard like it may have some of the other guys that he's fought. I think Alex Perez is very, very, very good. Lost to the elite, but definitely belongs at the top of that division. So I do think that the experience is going to work in Perez's favor. I think he goes all 3 rounds with Manel Kape. I think it's unanimous for Perez.
Mark.
So Perez is a bit of a dog here. He's plus 150. Manel Kape is minus 180. Manel Kape time again, baby. Pretty sure I'm just going to keep picking him until I'm wrong. But I don't think that's going to be here. I think he can take Alex Perez. Size-wise, Perez is 1 inch taller. But Kape is going to have a 2.5-inch reach advantage. And Alex Perez is good. I know it's a bit hard to remember that because his fights have been getting canceled at an insane rate lately, but as Omar alluded to, he's only been beaten in the UFC by Pantoja, Figgy, and Benavidez. So you got to be good to beat Alex Perez. He can wrestle, he can grapple, he can strike, he's got nasty leg kicks. There's a lot to like in Perez's game. But I don't see him being able to ground Kape here for any notable period of time. Even if he gets him down, I think it might be hard to hold him down, which leaves me with what I expect will be a mostly striking match, and I favor Kape all day in that environment. I just, I've been on this guy. I believe in his talent. I think that he is so slick. He sets traps beautifully. He should be faster than Perez. He may even hit harder than Perez. And I think Kape is top 5 level good, if not better than that. And I think that's the level he'll be on when he gets his W on Saturday. So give me Manel Kape by UD in a fight that he takes over more as it goes on.
I agree. I think that Manel Kape is a rising star among the flyweight ranks, and I'm looking for him to win this fight impressively and really stamp his ticket to the upper echelon of the 125-pound division. Give me Manel Kape round 2 TKO over Alex Perez.
Jesus
That'd
Christ.
be big. That'd be big.
Come on, Alex. They don't believe in you, baby. I believe in you. Let's go. Let's
Okay,
go.
here we go. From flyweight over to women's flyweight, Andrea Lee taking on Maycee Barber. So we have Andrea KGB Lee, the 34-year-old out of Louisiana, 13-6 as a pro, 3 knockouts, 5 subs on her record. Looking to get back in the win column after losing to Viviane Araujo back in May of 2022. She is now 5-4 in the UFC. Maycee Barber, the future, the 24-year-old out of Greeley, Colorado, 11-2 so far as a pro with 5 knockouts. Add 2 subs to that. Never been finished at all in her career thus far. and she will be riding a 3-fight win streak coming into this weekend. After winning on a Contender Series, she is now 6-2 in the UFC. Mark, let me start with you this time. The future, Maycee Barber taking on KGB Lee. What's your pick?
So big fight for Maycee here. She is a pretty big favorite in it. She's minus 270. Andrea Lee is plus 210 as the underdog. Lee certainly has an angle in this fight in that she's going to have a 4.5-inch reach advantage over Maycee. And if she can keep that range and use her range striking to pick away at Maycee Barber, she could absolutely do this because Andrea Lee can strike for days. When she starts to flow, she is nasty. Remember the way that she was piecing up Viviana Araújo before Araújo was able to swing that fight with her grappling. Like, the avenue is there, but if you ask me the most likely scenario here, I think it's Maycee winning with physicality, kind of similar to how Araújo was able to swing that fight, to be honest. Yeah. I think Maycee's probably faster. I think that she, not faster hands, but just faster athlete, I think she's absolutely stronger. I think she can control Lee in the clinch. She's really improved that part of her game lately in terms of her striking in the clinch. I think she can find takedowns in this fight. I do think Lee will have to spend some time on her back. And Barber works, man. She knows how to score when she's in these advantageous positions, against the cage or on the mat. So I like Andrea Lee. I think she's been a bit underrated herself, but I think this matchup favors Maycee, and that Maycee probably gets what you may call her biggest win of her career thus far here. So I will say Maycee UD.
Omar.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I think Barber has a lot more tools overall. I think where the fight's really going to end up happening is that distance, like Mark was talking about. Andrea Lee is going to keep trying to maintain that distance, that long range distance as much as she can, especially using her kicks and her long range jabs and even crosses. But Maycee Barber's game is more than likely going to have to be how to find that entry, how to come inside, how to find the takedown, how to get into grappling range without getting her ass beat. And it's not like Maycee Barber doesn't throw hands, but if the goal is to get on the inside, she's going to need to find a safe way in order to do that, take advantage of that moment, and really put the grappling on Andrea Lee. I think Barber has the ability to do that. She's a very smart fighter. She's gone through a few different types of experiences already at such a young age, especially fighting a lot of veterans, women that at this point, have had championship fights before, have had all of these top level competitions. So I just think Maycee Barber's got some really nice looks in her resume. I'm going to go with Maycee Barber by unanimous decision.
We are unanimous by taking Barber by unanimous decision. Like all the points both you guys already made about her. Don't want to be too much of a parrot, but I totally agree. I think, yes, Maycee Barber is going to be giving up some size and some height. But she's going to be the more stout, stronger. I believe that Maycee Barber is a bit of a more dynamic athlete than Andrea Lee. I think she's going to get inside of her. And I think she's going to shine in top control in this fight, eventually getting Andrea Lee to the ground. Tempted to take her by a submission late in the fight. But Andrea Lee, so far in her career, 19 fights, has proven to be pretty durable. Has never been knocked out, only been submitted once. So I'm also going to take Maycee Barber by a unanimous decision. Okay, moving on to the featherweights now. Nate Landwehr taking on Austin Lingo as a late replacement for Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres. Landwehr, Nate the Train Landwehr, the 34-year-old out of Clarksville, Tennessee. His record stands at 16-4 as a professional with 8 knockouts, add 1 sub to that. He's riding a 2-fight win streak coming into this weekend. Most recently, a majority decision over David Onama back in August. His first quick note, Nate Landwehr's first 4 pro fights were with the XFC, of which I announced the XFC's last 2 events before they folded like a house of cards.
Yeah.
Let's see. He will be standing across from Austin Lights Out Lingo, the 28-year-old out of Mesquite, Texas. 9-1 as a pro, 3 knockouts, 2 subs, also with consecutive victories coming into this weekend. Omar, why don't you go first? Give us your take and your pick.
So for those of you really quick who didn't watch the Nate Landwehr David Onama fight, highly recommend. That fight was absolute madness.
Great fight.
Yeah, fantastic fight. This is also, I think, a very interesting fight. Austin Lingo taking this on short notice. I think Nate Landwehr is a tank, man. That you know, if the David Onama fight you don't want to watch for straight up enjoyment, and you should definitely watch it for some research, because we learned a lot about Nate Landwehr in that fight. He's a tank. He is definitely durable. And I think the biggest thing is, you know, he has the ability to take damage, but he also has the ability to continue to come forward even when he's in the middle of those wars. I don't know if Austin Lingo is going to have that. I don't know if he's going to have the amount of determination required to get Nate Landwehr out of there, let alone the skills in general. I think Nate Landwehr puts a beating on him. I think we get him out of there in the second round. KO for Nate Landwehr.
Mark?
All right, Nate is minus 230. Lingo is plus 180 as the dog. Tough to pick against Nate the Train right now, man. We saw him beat Darren Elkins a few fights back, and I almost feel like in some ways Nate Landwehr is kind of like the new Darren Elkins. Like, the more he has to push through, the more dangerous he becomes type of deal. He has been finished a couple times in the UFC, mixed in there with the impressive wins. But I don't think Austin Lingo necessarily brings enough of that fight-ending danger to get Landwehr out of there. What he does bring, Lingo, is the fight, which I think will have Landwehr licking his chops to bring it in return. And I think he'll bring it even more than Lingo does. So I think Nate can beat him in the striking. I think he could also mix in some grappling if he so chooses. I think he probably has an advantage there. Not sure if he will go that way, as I know he always is looking to entertain, but I will say he does more damage either way and wins an entertaining UD.
Yeah, and that fight with David Onama, I remember why it wound up in majority decisions. One judge had it a draw. Was there a reason why it was a 20-28 on that scorecard?
I honestly can't remember. They might have just been a straight up fucking draw because of how crazy that fight was.
Because I remember
I think
10-9,
it was
10-9, 10-8.
Yeah. It was a
Because as that
10-8
fight
round
went
for
on,
Nate in
the
round
third
two.
Oh, in round two, yes. As that fight went on, man, he looked so good against the guy. David Onama, who brings quite a bit of firepower at 145 pounds. Nate Landwehr looked incredible in that outing. So, like Mark said, hard to pick against him right now at this point in time. And I do see him getting the W over Austin Lingo. A rising prospect, no doubt. He has youth on his side, 9-1 so far. But I think he's going to get a heat check, and I think Nate Landwehr is going to hand him his first knockout in the second round. Recording. Okay, co-main event time. Women's bantamweight division, Holly Holm taking on Yana Santos, formerly Yana Kunitskaya. So we have Holly Holm, the preacher's daughter, the 41-year-old, fighting out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Her record stands at 14-6 as a pro, with a long boxing and kickboxing career preceding her MMA career. Of her 14 wins, 8 have come by way of knockout, and she's looking to get back in the win column after a disappointing split decision loss at the hands of Ketlin Vera back in May. She is 7-6 in the UFC so far. Her UFC strength of schedule can rival anyone, and she's fought a who's who of women's MMA overall, not just UFC. She was standing across from Yana Santos, formerly Yana Kunitskaya, the 33-year-old fighting out of Russia, 14-6 as a pro, 1 no contest, 7 knockouts on a record. Also looking to get back in the win column after a loss at the hands of Irene Aldana back in July. She's 4-3 in the UFC. Mark, give us your take and your pick of Santos versus Holm.
So Holly Holm is minus 240 in this one as the favorite. Yana is plus 200. They are the same size, so nothing to discuss there. Yana Kunitskaya is now Yana Santos, so we'll see if the name change can give her any extra power like it did for Veronica Hardy on Saturday. But seriously, I don't think Yana is on the same level as Holly. Like, she's good, don't get me wrong, but I just think she's one notch below what Holly Holm is, and I think if Holm did lose this fight, it would be time to maybe consider that the career was getting away from her a bit. But I kind of just feel like Yana is a lesser Holly Holm. Like, she likes to clinch and hold you on the cage. I think Holm is better at it. She likes to strike in the clinch. I think Holm is better at it. She likes to strike at range. I think Holm is better at it. I think Holly takes damage better. I think her takedown defense is better. So I just think she's better at all the things that Yana is good at. So not a lot to break down for me in this one. I feel. I think it's a Holly UD.
Omar, give us your take and your pick. Holm versus Santos.
Yeah, personally, I've never been a huge Yana Santos fan, even when she was Yana Kunitskaya. Her performances have never been stand out for me. I think she's maybe had one or two good performances that I could remember. I think Caitlin Vera might have been the one that I can really think of that was kind of a standout for me. But she's not very consistent. And when she loses bad.
Yeah.
Holly Holm has a lot more, although she's also had her wins and her losses, still, in my opinion, fights at a championship quality. And like Mark said, I just don't think Yana Santos is at that point. Should also point out that Yana Santos had a child. She was pregnant or tested positive for being pregnant right after the Irene Aldana fight, to the point where people thought that she was fighting pregnant. So there is that to keep in mind, because she wasn't very pregnant in August when it was announced, and she fought in July. So I'm going to assume she probably had that baby sometime in the middle of 2022. And then here we are in the kind of the middle of 2023, and she's back at it. So it'll be interesting to see how she comes back. Maybe she comes back better. We all know that, sometimes those things are good motivation. She could have also lost a step in trying to regain everything that she had before. So we'll see. In my opinion, though, I think Holly Holm is just the better fighter overall. I would go with Holly Holm by unanimous decision.
I agree with everything that's been said, and I think that Holly Holm's superior stand-up skills are going to shine through. I see Holly Holm catching Yana Santos in the third round with a head kick, stunning her, and I'm going to say Holly Holm gets a TKO in the third round. Because when Yana Santos loses, she loses bad, just like Omar said. Her last three losses, which have been a little bit spread out, have all been by TKO, by Aldana, Aspen Ladd, and Chris Cyborg. Okay, main event time. Here we go. Bantamweight bout of serious consequence. Marlon Chito Vera taking on Cory the Sandman Sandhagen. So Chito Vera, the 30-year-old out of Ecuador, his record stands at 20-7 as a pro, 14-6 in the UFC. His first fight in the UFC was back in 2014. He's been in the UFC for a minute. Of his 20 wins, 8 have come by knockout. 8 more have come by submission. Most recently, he's on a 4-fight win streak, finishing Dominic Cruz by head kick back in August. Cory Sandhagen, the Sandman, the 30-year-old out of Colorado, 15-4 as a pro, 8-3 in the UFC. Of his 15 wins, 7 have come by knockout, 10 finishes overall. Most recently, coming off of a nice win over Yadong Song back in September. A nice TKO victory. Omar, start us off here. Give us your take and ultimately your pick.
I was really hoping it was Omar first. I don't know what the fuck to do.
Give us your take and your pick. Start us off.
I'm sure they want me to go first, because your boy is not going against Chito Vera. Fuck all of that noise. Okay? I get it. It's Cory Sandhagen. 95% of the time, I'd rather be picking Cory Sandhagen. Shit doesn't happen when Marlon Chito Vera is on the card. So, Chito's on a run, man. He seems to be really dialed in. We can have these conversations about how those first few Dominic Cruz rounds went and kind of what was going on with Chito winning or losing that fight and all that stuff. But the reality was, man, he was very patient. He was very measured. He could have definitely lost that fight waiting to pull the trigger, waiting to find that one shot. But the reality is he found it. He found it against Dominic Cruz. He found it against Frankie Edgar. He could definitely find it against Cory Sandhagen. And if he can't find it against Cory Sandhagen, he can still very much win a decision like he did against Rob Font and like he did against David Grant. So Chito Vera is a real fighter. That man does not quit. That man comes forward. That man is not worried about getting hurt. And the man hits with a lot of power. And his strikes and his abilities are getting more dynamic each time he shows up. I expect another increase in Chito Vera's abilities. I just think he's just coming into his own and is just becoming such a great fighter. I'm going to go with Marlon Vera by unanimous decision, but I recommend not blinking because somebody's liable to get knocked the fuck out.
Mark, what are the odds of this fight? Is this a pick'em? I bet it's a pick'em.
You want to guess who's favored?
I'm going to guess Chito's favored.
Chito's got to be.
Cheetos has a 4-5 win streak. He's got to be favored.
But it's got to be maybe 135, minus 135, and the Sandhagen maybe plus 110 maybe.
Chito plus 140 underdog. Cory
Wow.
minus 170.
What? Why?
Yeah.
Oh wait, no,
That was just a rankings thing.
No,
Yeah,
Is it
opposite of what you
Sandhagen's-
said.
So Sandhagen's above in the rankings. That's why.
No. What do rankings have to do with it?
I'm guessing. Is he? I'm
Oh,
trying
no,
to figure
Andrea's
out
ranked
why.
ahead of Sandhagen anyway.
Why is the guy with the 4-fight win streak having just crushed his last opponent with a head kick, the underdog in this fight?
like I said, they might be taking into consideration the fact that he lost the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, it's about the matchup, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't know who'd be favored. I thought it would be much. I didn't think anyone would be minus 170. I think that's crazy. I think it's basically a pick'em. So yeah, at this point, my money would go on Vera with those odds. But Cory is 3 inches taller. The reach actually favors Chito by half an inch. Yeah, I don't know what to do. It is not easy to pick a Marlon Vera fight. Will he be losing early and just keep losing? Or will he be losing and then turn the fight on its head as the fight goes on? I don't know. It's very hard to pick fights for a guy that fights the way he does. I've made the point on here before that his style concerns me more and more as he's standing across from more and more elite guys. Because if he's going to come in and analyze for 10 minutes and drop 2 rounds, then he has to either win all 3 that are left, which is not easy against guys this good, or get a finish, which is not easy against guys this good. So it's tricky. And Cory, honestly, is kind of like Dominic Cruz, but better and with more danger. And Dom was winning every round of that fight against Vera. So Cory's absolutely capable of replicating that type of performance. I think he'll be moving well in there. He'll be chopping the leg. He's so diverse with the striking. And now, as of his last fight, we see him showing off a wrestling game as well to mix things up, which was a big factor against Yadong to get him thinking. And maybe what's most important in fighting Chito is that Cory has great footwork, great head movement, and a great chin. He's not easy to find for like a big shot. So there are a lot of reasons why I am tempted to pick Cory. I do think the fan in me is coming into play in this one, which I try very hard to not do. But I want to believe that Marlon's coaches have got it through to him that he needs to step up the activity and the aggression early, especially in a matchup like this one. Because, again, I think the Marlon that fought Dominic Cruz loses this fight. You know, if he comes out analyzing and lets Cory build a lead early, I don't think it's going to shift back far enough because I don't think he's going to put Cory out. If he does, I'll be really impressed. But I'm going to choose to believe And again, maybe it's as a fan. I'm going to choose to believe that we see a leveled up Chito who can get this done, who comes out understanding he's got to throw more. I think his ability to analyze and to find chinks in the armor and to find openings in guys' movement as the fight goes on is really starting to feel like it's special. He hurt Rob Font multiple times. He's extremely precise with his shots. There's big power behind them. And if he can mix that type of, big shot opening style with actual activity early, I think he can win enough of these rounds. Again, I don't think he'll actually put Cory out, but I want to believe he can do enough. I'm literally 51-49 on picking this fight. Earlier in the day, I thought I was going to go Cory, but I'm going to go Chito 48-47.
Yeah, the thing that gave me the most pause is thinking about the movement of Dominic Cruz and how Chito wasn't really winning that fight up until the moment that he won it. And how, I think, Mark, you said it as I was literally having the thought that Cory Sandhagen is kind of like Dominic Cruz, but bigger. And at this point in his career, with more firepower. So for that reason, I am going to go with Cory Sandhagen here. I think at featherweight, it cannot be ignored. Excuse me, this is a featherweight fight. No, bantamweight fight. At 5'11", his size is gigantic for the weight class. And, I don't think his head is going to be there for that head kick that he landed on Cruz. So, yeah, I see Cory Sandhagen running away with it on the scorecards. I'll take Sandhagen by decision. I'll say unanimous decision.
Yeah, I'm afraid that might be the smart pick.
Close fight. Well, I thought I was making the smart pick last weekend during the main event, and I was fucking wrong.
I'm going with the heart here. Yeah, it's a tough one, man. It's a real tough one. I could see it going a lot of different ways.
I mean, I do not hate on Cory Sandhagen one bit, but I love me some Chito Vera as much as anybody. I mean, he is kind of like one of the darlings and a fan favorite of the promotion, and for good reason.
You could argue that this is like one of the toughest matchups there is for Chito in this division. Because
100%.
you put him against like an Aljo, if he can stuff the takedowns, like he's probably going to hurt Aljo standing. If you put him across from like an O'Malley, you'd like to think he can, the aggression he fights with could maybe break through how clean O'Malley is, like, or he could even try to take him down, like different things. This fight, it's kind of like, I'm not exactly sure what the avenue is to beat Cory.
Yeah. Well, we've done it. There you have it. And this time I recorded our picks as we went along. So we'll keep track.
Boom.